The sun was beginning to dip, casting long shadows across the narrow side streets behind the city's wealthy district. Sophia, 24, moved quickly along the uneven cobblestones, balancing a large laundry basket against her hip. She was dressed in her usual maid uniform: black dress, white apron, hair pulled back neatly fresh from delivering pressed suits to the wealthy Mr. Adler's mansion. She always took the same shortcut home, a side alley between two old brick buildings. Normally it was quiet. Today it wasn't. Halfway through, three figures stepped out from behind a dumpster. Brent Max and Cole men in their late 20s with that hollow-eyed swagger of people who had nothing better to do than prey on others. She recognized them instantly. They were known trouble in this neighborhood. "Well, look what we have here," Brent grinned, his eyes roaming shamelessly. Sophia's grip on the basket tightened, but she kept moving. "Out of my way." Cole blocked her path. "Oh, don't be like that. We just want to see what's under all that prim little uniform." Before she could step back, Max moved behind her. She felt a sudden crude yank at the back of her dress. Buttons popped. The chill of the evening air hit her bare back. Her arms shot up instinctively, but Brent was faster. He reached in, hooked his fingers under the strap, and with one vicious pull, her bra came free into his hand. The sound of their laughter echoed down the alley. Brent dangled the bra like a trophy, spinning it on his finger. Didn't know maids wore something this nice. Her face burned not from shame, but from the effort it took not to move. Every instinct in her body screamed for action. She could have dropped the basket and ended this in less than 30 seconds. But she didn't. Not here. Not with the narrow alley trapping them together. Not when she could smell the beer on their breath and see the glint of a phone in Cole's hand. Instead, she looked Brent dead in the eyes. "Keep it," she said evenly, voice calm, despite the storm inside her. "You're going to need a reminder of what you've done when this comes back to you." They laughed harder, mistaking her composure for defeat. Cole lifted his phone, angling it toward her. "Smile for the camera, sweetheart." She turned and walked away without another word. Her bare shoulders squared her pace steady. Their laughter followed her, getting louder, uglier. But behind her calm expression, her mind was already calculating. She noted the way they stood, how they moved, even the lazy arrogance in the way Brent held the bra, completely unaware that they had just crossed a line they would regret for the rest of their lives. By the time she reached the main street, her humiliation had hardened into something cold and precise. Sophia didn't just know how to fight. She had fought in cages under bright lights with opponents who could break ribs and split lips in seconds. She had the discipline of a trained MMA fighter. And now, she had a reason to use it. This wasn't over. Not even close. Sophia's small apartment was silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. She placed the laundry basket on the kitchen table. The folded clothes inside still perfectly arranged, despite the chaos in the alley. Her uniform hung loosely at the back, where the buttons had been torn away, and her bra was of course gone. She dropped into a chair, resting her elbows on the table. Her hands clenched into fists without her realizing. She had faced worse inside the octagon, bloody noses, cracked ribs opponents trying to choke her out. But this was different. This wasn't a sport. This was calculated humiliation. Her phone buzzed. A notification from a local gossip page popped up. Maid gets stripped in alley. The post had a blurry photo, her back turned, arms crossed over her chest, obviously taken from Cole's phone. She scrolled through the comments, her jaw tightening at every laughing emoji, every cruel remark. For a moment, she closed her eyes, breathing slow and deep. An MMA fight wasn't just about muscle, it was about control. Losing your temper got you knocked out. and she had no intention of losing to these men, in or out of a cage. Her mind began to plan. Charging at them in the street would only give them more attention, maybe even legal grounds to twist the story against her. She needed them somewhere private, somewhere without cameras, without escape. Somewhere she could decide exactly how the fight would go. She thought of their habits. Brent, with his late-night gambling, Max always looking for easy cash, Cole desperate to impress anyone who would follow him online. They could be baited. Pulling out her phone, she opened a blank message and typed with deliberate care. Heard about some easy money. Security at the old warehouse is basically nothing. Cash boxes inside from the construction crew. Only if you're not scared. She sent it from an anonymous number attaching a single photo of a dark, empty corridor. Within minutes, the 3 dots appeared. Who is this? She ignored the question, following up with 10 p.m. tomorrow. East Gate. In and out in 10 minutes. Bring friends. They would come. She could feel it. Sophia leaned back, imagining the space, an abandoned storage warehouse on the edge of the industrial district. She'd trained there years ago when her old coach couldn't afford a gym. Padded mats still covered parts of the floor, and heavy bags hung from rusted beams. No neighbors, no security cameras. Just enough light to see your opponent coming. Her breathing slowed. This wasn't about anger anymore. This was about control. She got up, moving to her bedroom closet. Inside, past her folded uniforms and casual clothes, hung the black athletic gear she hadn't worn in months. Fingerless gloves, compression leggings, and the sleeveless top that allowed for fast movement. She ran her hands over the fabric, feeling the old rhythm of her training return in her blood. By the time she zipped the gym bag shut, the plan was set. Tomorrow night, the alley wouldn't save them. The crowd wouldn't protect them. Tomorrow, it would be just the 4 of them. And the cage fighter they had no idea they'd provoked. The next evening, the industrial district was a graveyard of steel and silence. Streetlights flickered overhead, casting long pools of yellow light onto cracked pavement. Sophia stood in the shadows near the east gate of the abandoned warehouse, dressed in black from head to toe, compression leggings, sleeveless top hair tied in a tight braid. Her gym bag sat at her feet, but inside were no clothes, only her old MMA gloves, water bottle, and a length of industrial zip ties. She'd arrived early, letting the stillness settle over her. Every sound was amplified. The creak of the warehouse doors in the wind, the distant hum of traffic far beyond the chain-link fences. At exactly 10:04, voices carried from the street. Brent's deep chuckle, Max's nasal laugh, Cole's constant muttering. They rounded the corner, their steps casual, as if they were heading into a game they'd already won. Brent spotted her first. Well, well, if it isn't the little maid, he drawled, his grin spreading. Sophia tilted her head, feigning calm. You're late, Max smirked. Couldn't decide if this was a setup. But hey, if the prize is you, we're not complaining. Cole's phone was already up recording. This is gonna get so many views. Sophia turned and pushed the side door open, the old hinges squealing. Inside, she said, her voice low but firm. They followed curiosity and arrogance propelling them forward. The interior was cavernous high ceilings, rusted beams, and scattered remnants of old training gear. In the far corner, a section of padded floor glowed under the light of a single hanging bulb. This the place? Brent asked, scanning the shadows. Sophia stepped into the lit area, the mat soft under her feet. This is exactly the place, Max snorted. So where's the money? She dropped her gym bag to the floor and slowly pulled out her gloves, slipping them onto her hands. The sound of the Velcro fastening echoed. The only thing you're leaving with tonight, she said, is bruises. They blinked, confused for a second, then laughed. Brent took a step closer. You think you can fight us? You're a maid. He didn't finish. Sophia moved so fast that the air between them seemed to snap. A low kick connected sharply with his shin, and he stumbled cursing. She pivoted, driving a palm strike into Max's chest, sending him staggering backward. Cole froze mid-record, eyes wide. "I'm not just a maid," Sophia said evenly. "I'm an MMA fighter. And tonight, you're my training partners." Brent lunged, swinging wildly. She sidestepped, hooking his arm and driving him face first into the mat. The sound of impact was sickening. Max rushed her, but she ducked low, catching his legs and sweeping him down hard. Cole backed toward the wall, still clutching his phone. Sophia straightened, her breathing, calm eyes locked on all three. "We're not done," she said, her tone like ice. And from the look in her eyes, they finally began to understand they'd walked into something they couldn't laugh their way out of. Brent groaned on the mat, trying to push himself up. Sophia stepped toward him, her shadow cutting across his face. "On your feet," she ordered. He spat to the side, glaring up at her. "You think you're tough, just 'cause you got a couple of hits in." Her response was a sharp front kick to his midsection. Not enough to break anything, but enough to send him staggering back into the wall, breathless. "No," she said calmly. "I'm tough, because I can end this whenever I want. And I'm not done yet." Max charged again, fury overtaking reason. Sophia pivoted her hip, turning into a perfect roundhouse kick that cracked against his ribs. The air whooshed out of him as he dropped to one knee, clutching his side. Cole still hovered near the wall, his phone trembling in his hand. "You're crazy," he stammered. Sophia closed the distance in 3 strides. One hand gripped his phone, the other hooked his collar. She slammed him back against the wall, not hard enough to injure, but enough to make the message clear. She yanked the phone from his hand and tossed it to the floor, stomping down on it until the screen splintered. No more filming. Tonight is just between us. Brent lunged from behind, but she caught him without looking, hooking his arm into a standing Kimura lock. His grunt of pain echoed in the warehouse. "Stop! Stop!" he cried, his voice breaking. "You didn't stop." Sophia reminded him, twisting just enough to make his knees buckle. "Not in that alley. Not when you laughed. Not when you thought I couldn't fight back." Max was still wheezing, and Cole was frozen against the wall. She released Brent, letting him drop to the mat, and stepped back, surveying them. "Here's the deal. You walk out of here, but you do exactly what I say. Tomorrow morning, you're going to stand in front of the same people who laughed at me online. You're going to tell them the truth, every filthy detail of what you did. And you're going to apologize." Brent wiped his mouth, glaring, but saying nothing. Sophia took a step closer, her voice low and deadly. "If you don't, I'll find you. And we'll finish this, with no mats to cushion the fall." The 3 of them exchanged uneasy glances. The arrogance had drained from their faces, replaced by bruises, sweat, and fear. She pulled the zip ties from her bag and tossed them onto the mat. "Tie each other's wrists. Now." They hesitated. One sharp glare from her, and they obeyed, fumbling with the plastic strips until their hands were bound. Sophia picked up her bag, glancing back once more. "This is me being generous," she said. "Next time I won't be." She walked toward the door, the echo of her steps, the only sound until it slammed shut behind her. Inside, the 3 bullies sat on the mat, tied and gasping, finally beginning to realize they had picked a fight they could never win. The next morning, the plaza outside the Central Market was crowded. Vendors calling out their specials. Kids weaving between stalls, and locals gathering for weekend chatter. In the middle of it all stood Sophia, dressed not in her maid uniform, but in a simple blouse and jeans, her hair loose, her face calm, but resolute. She didn't have to wait long. At precisely 10 o'clock, Brent, Max, and Cole shuffled into view. Their wrists were free now, but their posture told the story, slumped shoulders, fresh bruises and eyes darting nervously at the crowd. Daniel, the market's unofficial announcer, stood with a small microphone hooked up to the plaza's portable speakers. "Attention, everyone. These men have something to say." Brent stepped forward, swallowing hard. "Yesterday, we humiliated Sophia. We cornered her in an alley, and we took her bra." His voice cracked, but he forced himself to continue. "We thought it was funny. It wasn't. It was disgusting. And we're sorry." Max shifted uncomfortably before speaking. "We didn't think about how it would feel for her. We just wanted to make ourselves look tough. We were wrong." Cole glanced at Sophia before looking down. "We won't do it again." The crowd murmured, some glaring, others shaking their heads. A few took out phones, not to mock, but to record the apology. Sophia stepped forward, her gaze sweeping over them, then to the faces in the crowd. When someone takes something from you, without consent, it's not just about the object. It's about control, about power. They thought I wouldn't fight back. They were wrong. And every woman, every person here should know you can fight back. You don't have to stay silent. Her words hung in the air, heavier than the morning heat. Brent's eyes flicked up for a second, catching hers. There was no longer mockery there, only the weight of what they'd been forced to face. Daniel dismissed them with a wave, and the three hurried away, disappearing into the crowd like shadows at noon. Sophia stayed a moment longer, greeting a few neighbors, accepting quiet words of support. Then she turned toward the street, walking with the same steady confidence she'd carried into the warehouse the night before. The city felt different now, not because it had changed, but because she had. They had tried to strip her of her dignity. Instead, they had given her the perfect opportunity to remind everyone watching that dignity was hers to protect. And she had. Sophia's ordeal was a stark reminder that power isn't in the hands of those who strike first. It belongs to those who decide how the fight ends. She could have lashed out in the alley, but she chose discipline over impulse, ensuring her response made a lasting impact. In doing so, she reclaimed control not only over her own narrative, but over the way the bullies would be remembered. Her victory wasn't just in the physical takedown, but in forcing them to face the same public scrutiny they had once weaponized against her. The crowd saw that standing up for yourself doesn't always mean shouting the loudest. It means acting with precision, purpose, and an unshakable sense of self-worth. For Sophia, the lesson was clear. Humiliation is temporary when you refuse to carry it. The real defeat is letting someone else write the ending to your story.